Wisdom Women podcast. We believe that in constant change and growth that we find fulfillment, not in perfection. Perfection is like a closed door, whereas striving to be better is always an open door. Our purpose is to enhance the best of women every day by empowering yourself to create your own success stories. Empowerment comes through self-knowledge, accompanied by soft skills development and professional knowledge. Finally, a podcast for women that seeks to act intelligently and sustainably in all aspects of your life. As a mother, professional, a daughter, friend, spouse, and in your interactions with your community. May your life be an open door to many possibilities. We will inspire you to pursue the changes you need to achieve 5 stars in all aspects of your life. And now, your trusted advisor, Bettina Meyer-Flug.
Hey guys, my name is Bettina Flug, and I will be your host today at Wisdom Woman Podcast. As you might already know, I'm the host of another podcast called Wisdom for Nonprofits, a podcast specialized for the busy nonprofit professionals. Besides helping nonprofits with my consulting company, I work as a life coach helping struggling women to find balance in their personal life and to accomplish success career that they always wanted and deserve. Through a series of one-on-one coaching sessions, I teach soft skills such as defining their short and long-term goals, finding their values, mission, establishing a healthy routine, being able to evaluate opportunities and taking decisions, preparing action plans to achieve their goals. My main goal is always to empower my coachees with enough tools so they can be their own coaching at the end. I inspire them by example to make good use of their own intuition and emotional intelligence. Seeing my clients gain incredible confidence, grow their business, and achieve a whole new level of success make me so happy. I just love what I do, and I'm always looking ways to learn and to find my tribe. I bet you guys that may always wanted to find your tribe. And in one of the search, I found this amazing meetup group called She Goes High. They were founded by Krista Baer and Tammy Parker. And Krista is the author of an amazing book called How to Believe in Yourself Against the Odds. She's a speaker in the startup group here in Fort Collins, Denver, a lot of other events. She's also a career coach. I was impressed with the work that she does. She Goes High have more than 1,200 women. She has a partner called Tammy. Tammy is the CFO of She Goes High. She brings more than 20 years of experience of her business. She's helping right now small business grow. And with this two knowledge, they were able to build a group where women can feel welcome. This group is amazing, and I'm really happy to have them here in my first podcast, Wisdom for Women. Thank you, Krista. Thank you, Tammy, to be here with me. Hey, girls, I don't know which one wants to start, but I want to know, why did you start this meetup group?
Well, I'll dive in with this question because I'm the one that started this group. And I like to say at the beginning of our meetings when I talk about She Goes High that I really started it for entirely selfish reasons. I started this group because it's the group that I had been looking for a long time, both in my professional career as well as once I became a business owner. There are so many great groups out there, but there didn't seem to be quite the right group for me. And so I started She Goes High because I was craving community and connection, but in a way that was different from a lot of the other groups that I was finding. For example, as an introvert, a lot of different groups that are out there tend to be geared towards extroverts. And it was always a challenge for me to feel comfortable in those environments, or it felt like it took me a really long time to feel like I fit in. And so I started She Goes High, and it was designed with introverts in mind. Of course, we have extroverts that show up anyway, because you just can't keep the extroverts away. But, it was really important to have an introvert-friendly environment. And that was one of the reasons I started this group. I also started it because something that I did not like about a lot of other professional groups or networking groups was the focus on transactional relationships. You know, those groups where you walk in the door and it's like people handing you their business cards or walking up and saying, "What do you do?" And despite being a career coach, I absolutely hate elevator pitches myself. It just feels so weird to basically have the equivalent of define your value in the world in 30 to 60 seconds. Now go. And I wanted She Goes High to be a place where women could come, and it wasn't about the work you do. We want to know who you are, not just what you do. And that question of what you do, it is an important question, but it's usually not the first thing that I want to know about someone. I want to know something else, something that tells me who that person is. And, you know, even desiring that deeper, more intimate connection, maybe just a sign of me being an introvert as well. And so it was really the group that I started and the community that I started because of what I had been looking for many years in my career. And once I started my business, all these other groups that I'd visited have a lot of value and they serve great purpose, but it never quite felt like I personally fit in. And so this was the group that I created to feel like this is a group that I would fit in it. This is a group that I would feel comfortable going to and showing up the first time and not driving up in the parking lot and then really being scared and wanting to turn around and go home. I've had that experience before. And then I forced myself to go in anyway and kind of sat in the corner very quietly at many networking groups, or even, you know, more social meetup groups sometimes, you know, feeling awkward, feeling like I'm not sure if I belong here, feeling like it really took a long time to get my legs under me. And so She Goes High was just created with this idea that, like, here's this community where you will be welcomed and it will be friendly and you won't feel those things that I felt so many times before.
Yeah, I loved the event that I attended. It was an amazing park in the middle of the nature. We had a good chat, and doesn't matter if it was raining or not, we had an amazing time. And who is welcome to this group? Introverts, extroverts, anybody? Tammy, can you tell us who is in welcome?
Honestly, any woman or anyone who identifies as female is welcome in our groups. And we have a lot of people who want us to clarify and be more selective, and we don't want to be. This is a place for you, for every woman. And one of our core values that Krista states so beautifully is that we start with the value that you show up having value. You don't have to prove anything to us. You don't have to be a certain way. You don't have to be a super professional. You don't have to have any background education. We don't care, because we know that women do amazing things every day in this world, and that's why they are all welcome, no matter what.
And you mentioned something about the values. Does She Goes High have specific values? What do you guys really care about?
I'd love to answer this one. So I would say, first and foremost, one of our core values of our organization is the belief that every woman who shows up is inherently valuable, not because of how she looks or the words that she uses or what she does as a job or business, but just because she is a woman moving through this world. And it is not easy to be a woman moving through this world. We've all had those challenges. We've all had those struggles. And as Tammy said, women are out there getting things done, and we are making a difference in huge ways. We're making a difference globally. We're making a difference nationally. We're making a difference in really obvious, big public ways. And we're making a difference in smaller, more quiet ways within our communities. And so one of our core values is the inherent belief that you are worthy just as you are, and you don't have to prove anything to us through the way you look or the way you talk or the things that you say. You don't have to prove your worth to us, because we just know that you are valuable. Another one of our values is that emotionally, everything is welcome here. We are a very positive, uplifting community, but we're not a group that says positive vibes only, because we acknowledge that as women moving through this world, we have difficult days at least as often as we have really great days. And so you don't have to show up at She Goes High always on your best day. You can show up at She Goes High and you cried earlier in your car. In fact, during our introductions, we've even had women say that before. We've had women tell us stories. Like there was one woman one time I will never forget, and she talked about she was ordering a bagel and she just started crying because she was overwhelmed and overcome with the pressures and the stresses of the things that were going on for her that day. And then later on in the evening, she showed up at one of our events and she said what a gift it was to feel like she didn't have to put on this happy face to show up, that she could show up and be welcomed and accepted just as she was. And it wasn't even like she was crying when she walked in the door, but that vulnerability that so many of us carry around with us all the time. And then I think feeling like, well, I'm going to a professional event, so I have to kind of have my game face on. And it's like, that's not something that you need to have as She Goes High, because we really want to know who you are. And we welcome you showing up just as you are. And I know that regardless of what kind of day you're having, that you have inherent value and inherent worth, and we are so glad you are here.
Yeah, I think you were right. There are people that are ashamed of showing their other side. I have to confess, this weekend I was in my coaching room crying with my blanket for half an hour, and my daughter came down and was the one who was, oh, mommy, it's going to be okay. You can talk to me. And she was being my coach. I didn't know where to go, so I just went to my coaching room and cried and cried. So it's so nice to know there is a place where you can go and you're not going to be judged. And I think this is the feeling that I had when I attended to one of your events. Was amazing. And I really like the way you guys do introductions. I was so impressed. In the other events that I attended, I had to have my elevator speech. I had to have my business card and be ready to talk about my next event. And I was so surprised by the way you guys do introductions. Can you explain our audience, how do you guys do introductions and what differentiates?
Well, Krista does a beautiful job of this at the beginning of every meeting. But what we do is we don't do an elevator pitch, as we said before. In fact, I really am not a fan of those at all. And Krista gives me a space to not have to do one. I don't remember the last time I took my business card out at a meeting. In fact, I usually, if somebody asks me, I have to go, just a minute, because I'm not in that space. I'm not in that headspace. I'm there just to be part of a community. And in my beliefs, community is so impactful. But for introductions, we do introduce ourselves and we share one thing we're proud of doing in the last week. And the reason Kristen made that the rule was because when you ask women what they're proud of, we list like huge life accomplishments. I have 2 sons that are grown-up adults, and I'm very proud of them and who they are. Beautiful young men that I'm proud of. But seriously, Caleb is almost 30. I have other things I've done since then that have value, and it makes me think about what I'm doing, and it makes me practice bragging. Women are not used to bragging about ourselves and what we got done. And then it also helps me find little things as well. And sometimes we all know success is in the little things, right? And something I'm really proud of is that our leadership team really lives these values, and we show up vulnerably. And I'll share a funny story. One night at She Goes High, leading after hours, I showed up and I was just really not feeling my normal energy. And so I shared that I had had a migraine earlier in the day and I had left the office and gone home and taken a nap. And I was proud because I put my bra back on and came to She Goes High. That was my big accomplishment. Because once I go home and get comfy, I don't go back out again. And I couldn't think of anything else because I still had a headache. And I was happy to live that vulnerability for our group. because when our leaders show our values in action, it gives other people space, right? And we laugh about it, but it is a true thing some days that once you've gone home with a migraine, really getting yourself back together and going out to a public event is a hell of a thing to do.
I agree with you. It's not easy. And how do you make this group accessible for everyone?
It was really important to me as the founder of She Goes High to make this group as accessible as was possible for a couple of reasons. Number one is I'm a Colorado native. I grew up in the Denver area, and I grew up in poverty. My mom became disabled when I was younger. And so, we had to deal with her disability. We had to deal with living on welfare. We had to deal with, there was some mental illness in my family. And so I've really personally had many experiences of being in a minority group or a minority situation and really struggling to fit in and finding my way. And so it was important to me that She Goes High was accessible to women across the spectrum. We're not only trying to reach women that are struggling, but we're trying to reach, as Tammy said, we really want to engage all women, but we want to engage women across the spectrum. And so what I know in my own life, through my friends, as well as in my experience as a career coach, is that we have peaks and valleys in our lives. And it's not all about class, and it's not all about, our minority status, even, although those things do impact us as from an accessibility perspective. But even more privileged individuals have peaks and valleys in our lives. And there are those times that, like, you've just launched a brand new business and you're in that first year of your business and you're not paying yourself yet. Or those times that you're between jobs, or someone you live with is between jobs, your spouse or your partner is between jobs, or you've just moved to Colorado. We get a lot of transplants here, and there's a lot of expense involved in moving. And so we have these peaks and valleys in our lives that we need support and community. And maybe it's not always easy to get that support and community. And so I really wanted to create a space that was accessible. And so we do that at She Goes High in a variety of ways. We do that in part by trying to keep things as low cost as possible while still delivering an amazing value. And this is something that I've had other business coaches and consultants really call me out on. They've said things like, hey, if the cost is low, the perception in people's mind is that the value is not very high. And I think that there's a lot of times that that's really true. And I also know, as someone who grew up on welfare, that those times that someone gave me a scholarship, that there was an opportunity for a scholarship that I received, or those times that somebody went out of their way to help and support me, I absolutely valued that, because I was so aware every single day of how much lack there was in my life in a lot of ways. And so anytime that there was some kind of opportunity, I embraced it and just dove in head first. And that's the space I try to hold for She Goes High, is that people aren't going to look at the low cost and say, oh, this isn't very valuable, but they're going to look at that and they're going to say, wow, this is really going to help me get from here to here. And so we have sponsors that financially sponsor the group, which allows us to keep costs and other paid things that we do, keep it low, because our sponsorships come in and supplement that cost. And so that's primarily the way that we keep the cost low and that we keep it accessible from a financial perspective, is through the support of our sponsors. And then now that we've had COVID, we're not holding our in-person events anymore, and we're going online. And again, from an accessibility perspective, that really does open it up to a lot more women who may have reasons that it's difficult for them to attend in person, such as transportation issues, or maybe work schedules or family schedules, that it's hard to not just go to a 90-minute event, but once you add on travel time, of course, it becomes a lot longer. And so now that we're virtual, it's like women can join from anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world, really. And you cut out that travel time. That makes it a little bit easier. And we're also always looking for new ways to make it more accessible. So again, not just from a financial perspective or a logistical perspective, but we're asking the question within the leadership team of how can we make this more accessible to more women? And that's something that's ongoing for us too.
Sorry, I would like to add something. Krista does something beautiful at our meetings in that, as she said, it's for introverts, created for introverts by introverts. Another accessibility piece is that you don't have to talk. You can skip. You don't have to do your introduction. If you're new to the community or English isn't your first language and you're feeling shy or whatever it is that day, you don't have to verbally and actively participate to be with us. We are just happy to have you there.
Oh, that's amazing. I would like to know from where come the people that attend to the events, but also what type of events do you guys organize? You mentioned now that you're doing a lot of online, but when you do in person, how it was before COVID and how it is now, and what are the plans for the future?
Yeah, so we started off as an in-person group. And so a lot of our participants are primarily from the Northern Colorado area because that's where our events were held. Although we have fans and we have members already from across the country, even before COVID. We have a very involved member who lives in Steamboat Springs. So it's about a 3.5, 4-hour drive away. And she doesn't drive down every month, but she does drive down from time to time because she loves the community, loves what we're about. We have a member who used to be in Colorado and had moved away, and she's in Chicago now, and she comes to our events. Now, especially that we're online, she's really excited to come to our events. So we're primarily Northern Colorado, sometimes even reaching down into Denver, but we do have attracted women from other locations as well. So we have events on the calendar every month. We have a variety of ways that people can participate with us, from our base level membership, and then we have our impact level membership. And we have a lot of events that we explore topics that are relevant to women, women's empowerment, and to women's leadership. Some of my favorite events in the past that we've had, for example, is we had a professor from CSU come in and talk to us about feminist friendship, which is essentially the idea of white feminism and how, as white women, we can do a better job of basically supporting women's empowerment and women's issues, not only from our own perspective as white women, but also to be inclusive to BIPOC women in that conversation. And so we brought in Dr. Corey Wong from Colorado State University. That was one of our best events that we've had. It's been really amazing. We had a mental health panel where we had a variety of women who have struggled with trauma and mental health issues, including some therapists and mental health professionals, come in and have some real talk about how mental illness and mental health shows up in our lives, how we can help break down that stigma, and how we can overcome that. And we've had a lot of topics on things that you might expect more traditionally from a group of ours. For example, topics on things like setting goals for the year, and how do you set really good goals that you're going to be able to follow through on. And so we really cover a broad range of topics with our monthly events, between our base level membership events and then our impact member events, where we have things like mastermind groups and deep dive workshops and other things like that.
And what are the benefits of the impact membership?
Our impact membership level is super interactive. We have a private Facebook group, and we celebrate each other all the time. And by all the time, I mean we have Mental Health Monday. How are you really doing, really? And it's a place to go. I cried in my car today, or I am flying high. I have so much energy. And then we have Toot Your Horn Tuesday, where we practice bragging on ourselves. And it is just so fun to go, I landed a contract today, and have 13 people comment, you're so awesome, send you gifts. And it's just so fun. And then something that I implemented as a part of leadership for the impact members was happier hour during COVID. It's tough to feel happy. And we do not put on that false happiness face as she goes high. But I wanted to remind us that there's good things happening in the world. And so I would bring happy actual news stories from around the world that where places were getting better because of COVID, like environmental news that really was impacted because of the pandemic, and just people showing up for each other and supporting each other. And I called it the happier hour. And I started it at 5 on Fridays. And it was a good way to put an end to your week. A lot of us are self-employed and we can work ourselves to death. So I have to stop and go to happier hour. And then we all brought one happy news about us to each week as well. And it was just another way to connect for our impact members. And we just had a good time.
And I'm really a big fan. I know a lot of our impact members really appreciate our mastermind groups. So we have 6-week series of mastermind groups where we meet once a week for 6 weeks that really allows our members to get super specific and focused on a particular goal and actually see that goal through to completion. And what I like about our mastermind groups and what's a little bit different from other groups that I'm familiar with is that, there's meeting weekly, which is great. So it's not once a month. You really make a lot of progress when you're getting that accountability every week. And also everyone gets a chance to participate and give an update every single meeting. So it's also not like a hot seat type mastermind where you might get a chance to talk or you might not. It's like, again, creating that accessibility and that space for even people who are shy, people who might be afraid to be the first one to say, I have an update. Everyone has time every meeting to share and contribute and receive support as well. And so I really am a big fan of our mastermind groups. We have multiple masterminds that happen throughout the year that our impact members can attend any of the masterminds included with their impact membership.
Great. And how long ago you started this group? I was so impressed. You have more than 1,200 women, and how everybody started coming.
Yeah. So, we're coming up on 4 years in October, and it was really pretty amazing to me how this group took off, because for our very first meetup, I remember thinking to myself, I will be so happy if we have 5 people show up, because I talked to other people that had started meetup groups and things like that. And it's like, usually it's a very slow build and you just steadily build and build. So I said, I'll be happy if we have 5 show up. I'll be ecstatic if we have 10. Well, our first meetup, it was 22 women, I believe, that showed up in the room. And most of them were women I did not know. In fact, it was less than half of the women knew me personally. And the rest of them were just women that resonated with this message of what this group was. And so we outgrew our first meeting space. Within a couple of months, we were like standing room only in our first meeting space. We would just pack in this little conference room that we were meeting in, and we would have, 25 to 30 women, and we'd have people just standing around the edges because there wasn't enough space for more seats. And so it's just really steadily grown on its own. And that has spoken to me and shown me that women really do value this experience, and they really are looking for a place where they can be welcomed and celebrated just for who they are, and not feeling like, oh, I've got to show up in this certain way to fit in or to feel welcome.
What are the plans for the future? Where do you guys see She Goes High going?
We have so many plans for She Goes High. We want to be nationwide. We want to be worldwide. There's no small measures here. Okay. We want to be to have groups of women that get to really lean into their passions, whatever they feel passionate about. We want a She Goes High contingency at a women's march. We want a She Goes High contingency at the Boulder. We want a She Goes High contingency at Pride. We have all of these passions that women just feel so much. Women are so active in our society and in trying to make it better. And we want to be part of that. And we want to give women a way to connect with each other and do it as groups and really just bring everybody in. When we talk about diversity and inclusion for us, we don't have to agree. We would not want to support an organization or an event that doesn't align with our values. But our values cover a lot of things. If it makes women's lives better, we want to be there, and we want to support each other, and we want to grow, and we want to invite each other, because when you have community, you can have an impact. And strengthening the community of women in the world is both important and impactful. And we just want to be everywhere. Like, our goals are as big as they can be. We want, because we found this to be such a gift for us, we want to give this gift to every woman, truly.
Talking about every woman, you guys talk about inclusion even before this was a subject. True inclusion is something that you guys brag all the time. But what is your vision about what's happening in our world nowadays about inclusion?
This is such a personal topic for me because I did grow up in poverty, and my mom was disabled, and there was mental illness in my family, and a lot of other barriers and a lot of other, levels of oppression that I personally grew up with. And so it's been really important for me from the very beginning for this group to be inclusive and accessible. Obviously, this is an ongoing conversation. I don't think we ever really reach that stage of like, oh, we have it all right now and we're doing everything the correct way. Like, right? No, this is an ongoing conversation, but it's a really, really important one for me. In fact, how we got Dr. Corey Wong to come in and present to us on feminist friendship was, in large part when I first reached out to her, she agreed to meet with me, and she told me how many organizations and groups reach out to her and just say they love what she's doing and they support what she's doing around teaching feminist friendship. But she finds that a lot of it is basically just lip service and that they're not really doing the work. And so she really, based on our conversations, she felt like She Goes High was different and that we were interested in actually doing the work and in challenging our own biases and in challenging our own behavior and doing things differently. And that's the space, that we continue to be in, and we continue to look at ways, how can we have this conversation? And something that's occurred to me recently, particularly around the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, is, thinking about looking at systemic oppression and systemic racism, and the realization that the system that allows racism to work and function in our country is the same system that allows sexism to function in our country. And I personally believe that any work that we do to dismantle any of these systems is going to support anyone else who is currently being oppressed by any of those systems. And so we do the work where and when we can and how we can. We challenge ourselves to grow beyond what we're currently comfortable with or what we're currently doing. We dive into this work and we do it with vulnerability and honesty. We make mistakes because that's what happens, but we don't let those mistakes stop us from continuing to move forward, to continuing to ask questions, continuing to confront and call out systems of oppression when they exist within ourselves, as well as when they exist within our community. And so, really specifically to sexism and gender-based oppression, these are conversations we've been having within She Goes High from the very beginning, and we're really expanding that topic outward more recently, inspired by the resurgence of Black Lives Matter, and we're starting to have those conversations more around race and those types of things, and doing it the best that we can, and understanding that, we're going to make mistakes and we're going to keep trying. We're going to keep trying to do the right thing. And we're going to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and get comfortable with being called out.
And I would like to add to that, something that we provide that is really unique is a very frank space. We are just really authentic and honest, and that's what we encourage in our members. And we offer a lot of opportunity for that. And we live it as leadership members. And that lets us have frank conversations. Northern Colorado is not a terribly diverse area, but that doesn't mean that we don't have a part to play in this. And if we work to be better allies as white women in America, then, what other impacts can we have that would be positive? And really, when Krista says we can make mistakes, we're going to follow Maya Angelou's words. When we know better, we will do better. And we're just here to learn and do better every day.
Talking about learning, I'm always learning with you guys. You guys inspire me. Thank you. Thank you so much. And let the people know how they can join your group. What is the process? Can you guys explain, please? How can people join She Goes High?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a Meetup-based group right now, and you can find us on Meetup. I would love to have any of your listeners come to one of our events. So the best place to RSVP for one of our upcoming events is to go to meetup.com/shegoeshigh/events. So you can find us She Goes High on Meetup, take a look at our events, RSVP, show up, and experience this community for yourself.
Thank you. I will be there for sure. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Krista. It was really good talking with you, and most of all, being at your events. Thank you. I'm learning so much with you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Wisdom Women Podcast. To hear past and future episodes, please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast channel. We appreciate your reviews and suggestions for future show topics. If you have a question or a suggestion, please write to us at podcast@wity.tech. More resources are available for you at our website, wity.tech. And please join us in the Wisdom for Nonprofits group on LinkedIn. Wisdom Woman is copyright 2020 by Bettina Meyer Flug and WITY.tech, all rights reserved.